Our story begins with Mitsuyoshi Tada, a reserved but thoughtful guy, and our protagonist taking pictures at the Sakuradaman gate, but a blonde girl gets in his way multiple times. But then she looks back, making him surprised. Though then, she approaches him as he nervously clicks on the shutter button and asks him to take a picture of her. He accepts, though her camera battery's dead, though she thought it wasn't as the battery icon was blinking like crazy earlier. But she doesn't have a spare battery, explaining that she lost her companion who had all her belongings, so she apologizes and leaves. But Tada offers to use his camera with her memory card instead, and she happily accepts. After that, she tells him she sincerely appreciates it, which is an odd way to thank someone, and leaves, though she forgot her memory card. Afterwards, while taking pictures, a handkerchief falls on his face, but it's hers as they meet again. He hands her back her memory card and tries to leave, but suddenly she spots the Shogun's secret passage, a sluice gate, and tries to jump to it. But Tada stops her as she explains that's from the show she absolutely adores, Rainbow Shogun, which has the phrase "always make your heart rainbow," which she imitates. Regardless, she stops and Tada then leaves. Later, it's raining, so the girl takes cover and tends to a cat she found. The water keeps falling on her. Tada happens to see this, so he decides to lead her to her place, but she doesn't know where it is. And seeing she's hungry, Tada decides to take her to his grandpa's shop. Later, they arrive, and the cat leaves, and she introduces herself as Teresa Wagner. She's introduced to Tada's sister, Yu Tada, their grandpa, Shozo, and Nyanko Bae, their cat. Shozo tells Yu to hand her a change of clothes, and after that, she makes a call. Later, she enjoys a sandwich with Nyanko Big, but then a blonde, eccentric guy barges in named Karu Ijuin and tries to play with Nanako Big, though it tries to attack him instead but dodges as Tada took pictures for his trepid Nanako Big's blog. After that, he notices and tries to flirt with Teresa, though then wonders if her blonde hair is real. But then, a red-haired girl angrily barges in and kicks Ijuin away. Afterwards, she introduces herself as Alexandra Magritte, or Alec, Teresa's companion, and apologizes, thinking Ijuin was attacking her, though he's left afraid of her. After that, she explains she lost her after changing trains, but instead of waiting for her, Teresa saw a castle and got interested. At this, Yu says to air is human, saying it's from a detective novel she adores, which she lends to Alec, though she notices a photo. Teresa then explains they're from Larsenburg, a small country in Europe. Ijuin tells Tada it'd be nice to visit, though Yu says that Tada's afraid of heights and hence afraid of riding airplanes. After that, Teresa and Alec leave, thanking them for their help, though Ijuin is left with a black eye. Later, Teresa reprints Teresa, saying she has to get her act together since one day she'll be, as a truck muffers her sound. They then try to find the place they'll live in, with a map someone named Rachel drew, but can't find it. Meanwhile, Tada and Ijuin are taking pictures in a street, though Ijuin only takes pictures of himself. But Ijuin then notices a mannequin that looks like Teresa, and at that moment, Tada spots her and Alec. She explains they have to go to the Grand Palace Ginza, thinking it's a mansion, but they show her it's actually a department building, next to their coffee shop. Alec's left shocked at this, though Teresa says she's fine with it and thanked the guys again for their help. Later, Tada looks through his pictures, though notices the one he accidentally took of Teresa, while Teresa, meanwhile, looks at the North Star, telling Alec that it's a lucky sign that always shows us the way, being sure that Japan, the country she's dreamed of visiting, still has many exciting things to come for them. The next day, Tada and Ijuin attend school, but there, they're introduced to two transfer students, Alec and Teresa. Alec makes Japanese breakfast, thanks to Reiko's notes, though with a gas mask, which spooks Teresa. Later, they go to school, and Tada and Ijuin notice they're popular already, but their friend Hajime Sujimoto, or Pin Senpai, instantly decides to read her cup sizes, though Alec angrily notices this. Afterwards, the classes end, but the girls are approached by Hinaka Hasegawa, the class representative, who tells them that they need to join a club per the school rules, so she takes them on a tour, showing them multiple clubs. Meanwhile, Tada and Ijuin plan with Pin Senpai, as they're members of the photography club, with Pin Senpai being the president, about what'll they do to win prizes. But as Hasegawa opens their door, Pin shouts that he wants nudies, which makes the girls leave, though Ijuin manages to stop them. Pin Senpai then introduces himself, though Teresa then notices a shrine and tries to touch it, but Pin Senpai angrily demands her not to, as Ijuin explains it's a shrine to Hina, a model he absolutely loves, though Hasegawa blushes at this, which makes Alec wonder of something. Pin Senpai then apologizes and tries to have them join, wanting the budget raise, though Alec wants to leave. But then, Teresa notices pictures on a wall, taken by the club members and Hasegawa, as she embarrassedly reveals she was asked to join, otherwise the club would have disbanded due to lack of members. Though Pin-senpai says that he had no choice but to ask her as well, making them argue. But Teresa then notices a picture of the Shogun's secret passage, which Tada took, and decides she wants to try taking pictures like that. Hasegawa reveals they can do a trial run for a day, and Teresa decides to try it, followed by a reluctant Alec. After that, they decide to do an event with them. So they go outside, and there Tada calls for Yamashita Dog with a whistle, which makes a student rush to them on all fours. He's introduced as Kentaro Yamashita, who earned the nickname Yamashita Dog because he always responds to Tada's whistle, though he also behaves like a dog. They then explain the event. They'll split into 2 teams, and every 15 minutes for an hour, the teams will alternate, with one taking pictures of the other, while the other hides, and the nicest picture will win. The teams are then drawn, with Tada, Yamashita Dog, and Teresa as Team A, and Pin-senpai, Hasegawa, Ijuin, and Alec as B. The event begins with Team A chasing first, trying to find Team B, and Yamashita Dog smells Alec, and they spot her, but Alec quickly runs away to their shock, and he only took a blurry picture. Yamashita Dog then decides to ambush them at the courtyard, where they've left a HINA fan on a bench, which Pin-senpai ends up finding, and they ambush him as his teammates watch. But then, it's time to switch roles, so B charges at them. Lala runs, though they end up losing them. But Alec then appears through the window and hears their footsteps, and they chase after them. They end up cornering them and bombard them with photographs. But Alec, seeing Teresa's overwhelmed, says that her shoelaces came undone, so they take advantage and escape, though Alec doesn't have any shoelaces. Afterwards, it's now Team A's turn, so B splits into 2 groups. But then, water from a bucket suddenly about to hit Hasegawa, but Pin-senpai got in the way because he wanted to save his camera, but they got found by Team A, though Teresa notices her camera's on filming mode, so they decide to escape. But Yamashita Dog ends up confusing Pin-senpai, making Teresa and Tada laugh, though it's now Team B's turn, so Alec quickly takes a picture of them. Afterwards, the event has ended and Alec's picture of Teresa and Tada has won, making Team B win. Though Pin-senpai ended up wearing only a towel, Teresa though decides that she wants to join the club, and Alec reluctantly joins as well. Afterwards, they decide to celebrate with the newcomers, though Hasegawa wants to leave on her own. But Pin-senpai tells her she's also a member, telling her to join, making her happily accept. After that, they went to Tada's coffee shop as used delighted to see Yamashita Dog, though Nanako Big not so much. After that, they enjoy their food and celebrate their new membership. This episode features narration from Nanako Big. He introduces Tada as the guy who saved his life, having found him in the rain 10 years ago. He then wakes him up after many attempts, and later, Yu rushes to school. Afterwards, he prays to a shrine of his parents and then gives Nanako Big kibbles, which he absolutely hates, though still eats them. Then, Tada sees Teresa in front of balcony, though at this, Nanako Big says that, like him, Tada doesn't get smitten with girls, though then, he smells fish from Teresa's apartment, so he jumps there, though he ends up falling. Later, Teresa goes check on Nanako Big, though he's fine. Seeing Shozo's gone, Tada explains he's in charge till he comes back. At this, Nyanko Big remembers how Tada's always helped at the shop, took care of Yu, and has worked hard towards becoming a photographer. Seeing he's short-handed, Teresa decides to help him, as Alec reluctantly follows, as usual. Ijuin then enters, surprised at seeing the girls helping, and then goes at it again with Nanako Big, as he's attacked, though he dodges again, and Tada photographs all that. Nanako Big recognizes him as Kaoru Ijuin, a spoiled brat, childhood friend of Tada, whose rich family owns a restaurant. Then a regular comes in, who Nanako Big figures is a hit man, who loves Rainbow Shogun as well. Then an elderly Kapule comes in, as Nyanko Big says he met them 10 years ago, but the ladies asked for a Kappa sandwich, which scares Ijuin since Kappa's the name of a river sprite. After that, Nyanko Big notices 2 youngsters behaving awkwardly, though then they stare at each other, as Nyanko Big remembers that he heard that if a man and a woman look at each other in the eyes for 8 seconds, they'll fall in love, and 8 seconds passes where they then blush. Later, the customers leave, and Tada then offers his friends coffee, but Alec then brings out hot chocolate spoons from Larsenberg that melt in drinks. Tada then hands them their coffee, and Teresa demonstrates how to use it, though Tada isn't a fan of sweet drinks, but Teresa wants him to try, so he does and finds it nice and uses one, but she's left blushing, as she now has to drink from the same rainbow cup he drank from. Afterwards, Nyanko Big goes on patrol, and then rests in a park, though the photography group is also there, as they're going to take pictures for the spring contest. So they do, on their own way, as Teresa's amazed by the garden's beauty, though Ichun warns her that kappas appear there. Tada says they don't exist, but Ijuan recalls that there was one when they first met 6 years ago when he got caught in something, and his friend said that it was a kappa that killed him, leaving him behind, crying. But Tada heard him and helped him. At this, Teresa thinks on how years ago, Alec made a flower crown for her, but it fell into the river, so she jumped after it. She managed to save it, but Alec, massively distraught, told her to think before acting. Seeing Tada's curious, Teresa says that Alec rescued her time ago as Alec asks if she did, while touching her own arm. Afterwards, at noon, the group leaves though Tada chose to stay taking pictures, as Ijuan explains that Tada's dad was a famous photographer, which is why Tada wants to be a photographer. Though then, Teresa finds the cat she sheltered from the rain, who Yamashita dog recognizes as Cherry, a cat from a beauty salon. Nyanko Big notices her, but then they lock eyes. Though he claims he'll never fall in love, 8 seconds pass, and he ends up falling in love, so he jumps at her, but ends up falling into the lake, which they all notice as Cherry mocks him. Though he quickly climbs a tree, but falls and is saved by Teresa, who ends up held by Tada. Staring at each other, Nyanko Big recalls the 8-second rule, but Alec then interrupts, checking on Teresa. Nyanko Big claims he's fine, though his heart is not, as he's fallen in love. Thought that? Love goes hand in hand with pain. In the photography club, Pin Senpai suddenly barges in, sweating, showing he's won a meet and greet invitation to meet Hina. Though Hasegawa seems bothered at this, he's extremely excited, though Ijuan points out he frees in front of her, so he has Pin Senpai try talking to him as if he was Hina, which he tries, and instantly faints. Tada tells him to practice meeting Hina for now, while Ijuan tells him to cause a good first impression to her with his outfit, and Yamashita dog to mind his manners, only touching her hands. So Pin Senpai wants someone to practice with, but they all reject him, so he ends up going with a reluctant Hasegawa. So later, they practice, but Pin Senpai's incredibly nervous. Meanwhile, Teresa wonders if Hasegawa will be Ak, but Alec tells her that once someone falls in love, they end up doing whatever they're told, per Yu's novel. Back with Pin Senpai, seeing him being a wreck, Hasegawa recommends writing down what he wants to say instead, so he does, while saying out loud that he loves her, and when she smooths down her hair as Hasegawa does it, and the lines in her palms as Hasegawa hides them, and her curled ear, which Hasegawa covers. Though Pin Senpai notices this, which makes Hasegawa say that no girl would want to hear those things, and then that she has to go. But before that, she recommends that, when he can't but feel nervous, to write what he's writing for person instead. The next day at school, they play volleyball, though Teresa and Alec end up clashing heads. Later, they're at the infirmary, but then Alec says that she hopes the swelling goes down before the meet and greet, revealing that she's known she's Hina from the start. Later, Hasegawa was invited to their apartment, and there, she explains that she was at first just replacing a girl for her aunt, who works at a modeling agency, but before she knew it, she began modeling. Though, she's shy, so it seemed like Hina was beginning to be another person. And then, Pin Senpai told her he became Hina's fan and couldn't reveal herself to him. Though Alec says that it's good that that creeper doesn't know, but Hasegawa says that, despite his flaws, he's good-hearted, remembering how he protected her from a dog when younger. At this, Alec recognizes she likes him, despite her nervous refusal, and says to reveal her secret, but Hasegawa fears he'll be disappointed, and that she wants him to want the real her. But at this, Teresa says that Hina is part of the real her, like how a sweet is still a sweet despite being split. Meanwhile, Pin Senpai's finished his letter. The next day, everyone but Hasegawa decided to accompany Pin Senpai and wait for him, and he arrives, but dressed wildly. Out of time, the guys played rock, paper, scissors to see who'd swap clothes with him, and Tada lost, so they swapped outfits and Pin Senpai went in. Meanwhile, Hasegawa changes into Hina. Afterwards, the event's begun, and it's now Pin Senpai's turn. Hasegawa wonders if he's noticed, though he's just very nervous. He tries to reach for his note, but finds it gone to his shock. But then, Hina thanks him for always supporting her, so he tries to hold her hand, but can't. This makes Hina ask what does he do when he can't but feel nervous, which makes him remember Hasegawa's words. So he writes in his hand and goes for it, but time's run out. But he forces himself and grabs her hands, thanking her for being born, but is escorted out afterwards. Though Hasegawa is confused, she holds her hand. Later at the coffee shop, Pin Senpai celebrates, having been able to tell Hina his feelings. After that, he calls Hasegawa and says, "You were amazing," to her surprise, thanking her, as he wrote person on his hand like she told him. She's disappointed, but after Pin Senpai thanks her and hangs up, she smiles and laughs. Though Pin Senpai's then stopped by the cops. The next day, Hasegawa tells the girl it's for the best if he doesn't realize she's Hina right now. though that one day, when she has a bit more confidence in herself, she'll tell him. Later, Teresa ponders on that, thinking that she hasn't told anyone the truth, though Alec says that this is all momentary anyways. But as Teresa talks about love, she asks Alec if she's ever fallen in love, though she denies it while touching her arm. Tada and his family visit his parents' graves as it's been 10 years since they left. Tada remembers that, one day, his dad's work was rescheduled for earlier, so his mom had to drive him to the airport. But Tada was pissed, so he didn't say anything to them. And as they left, his dad took a picture. Later in the present, Ijuin and their friends arrive at the coffee shop as it's now time for the 10th annual Kaoru Ijuin show. The shop's been reserved for the day, as Ijuin will make everyone a feast. While waiting, Teresa and Tada notice some things for the fridge upstairs, so they take them there. Alec tries to follow Teresa, though she says it's fine. Upstairs, Teresa notices many photos, though one catches her attention, saying that it's similar to Tada's photos. Tada says that that's the last photo his dad took of them, as he and his mother died in an accident that afternoon, with only his camera remaining intact. Teresa then remembers the past and tells Tada that she bets he's been living wishing to be stronger since that day. Tada's surprised, though claims to not be sure, though then Ijuin calls them over as the feast's ready. Everyone finds it delicious, though Alec claims he's still got ways to go, despite eating it all quickly. After that, the Kaoru Ijuin show continues outside, as he's reserved an entire bathhouse for just them. Though he has one issue with it, their mascot is a kappa. Regardless, they enter and enjoy the bathhouse, while Pin-senpai claims to see through the wall with fog glasses. The girls also enjoy their side, but then you ask Teresa if she has a boyfriend, as Alec says she does, to their shock, though then that she's just lying. So you then asks Alec if she has a boyfriend, which she denies. Meanwhile, the guys hear the girls having fun and Hasegawa laughing, which Pin-senpai points out. This prompts Ijuin to ask if he likes her, which Pin-senpai claims that that's impossible. Then, Ijuin asks Yamashita Dog if she has a crush, which he responds that he does, but that it's one-sided. And meanwhile, Ijuin claims that he can't belong to anyone, but that he seriously wants a girlfriend. Yamashita Dog then asks Tada if he has a crush, though he has none. But he then notices that Pin-senpai's been soaking for too long, being red now, so he exits the bath, but ends up slipping thanks to a bucket and passes out. Afterwards, Pin-senpai's recovered, and they leave the bathhouse. This concludes the annual Kaoru Ijuin show, as they all thank him and head back. But then, Ijuin tells Tada that if he ever loses his balance because of a kappa, to tell him, which makes Tada jokingly asked if he'd save him if that did happen, though that it won't happen. But this makes Ijuin yell that he doesn't know, as he never says anything. But Tada then thanks him for always his show, but that he's okay now. Ijuin though tells him that he knows, and that he does this because he likes to, saying that he'll do it every year forever. Later, they split as Yu tells Teresa and Alec that today's the anniversary of her parents' and that Ijuin seems to do this so they won't be sad, with this being his 10th show. Tada recalls that he used to not get along with him. He remembers seeing him cry at the funeral, and that after that, he pestered him every single day, telling him to cheer up and to talk to him about anything. But then, on the first day of his parents' death's anniversary, he came dressed as a clown and invited him to the Kaoru Ijuin show. Later, Alec's about to open their apartment, but notices something's off, so she opens it and attacks, but is stopped by a guy they know named Charles, claiming he's there in pursuit of the future queen of Larsenburg, the Princess Teresa de Larsenburg, though he's just kidding, as his university's on holiday, so he went to visit Japan. Afterwards, he says he wants to tour their high school but present it as their childhood friend, since no one knows the truth. Afterwards, he leaves as Alec says she's left reassured of everything after Charles' visit to Teresa, which makes Teresa say that Alec likes him, and Alec responds that she does, out of respect, and since he's a fine fiancé worthy of Teresa, future queen of Larsenburg. The next day, Charles meets her friends, introducing himself as Charles Delore. Though Pin-senpai, Yamashita Dog, and Ijuin don't like him at first, he compliments Ijuin, saying he looks cooler in person than in his photos, winning him over, and then compliments the effort put into Yamashita Dog's pictures, also winning him over. And after that, he notices Pin-senpai's pictures of places where Hina did her photo shoots. He's explained who Hina is, though he sees Hasegawa after that and smiles, saying to Pin-senpai that she's certainly beautiful like a goddess, which wins him over. After that, he also compliments Hasegawa and Tada's pictures, and then looks at Teresa's of a rock that looks like a penguin. And then he spots a picture of heart-shaped sweets by Alec, claiming she's always been good at finding adorable things, making her blush. Later, they have coffee at the coffee shop as Yu ends up delighted with Charles, and even Nyanko Big plays with him to Ijuin's shock as Tada takes pics, also of him being attacked. While Alec tells Yu that Charles also manages a company, he looks around and notices a photo. Afterwards, Charles is about to leave with the girls, but Ichun wants to invite them for a party tomorrow, though they reject it as they have plans already and leave afterwards. The next day, Edwin's invited his friends to the party, but they notice Charles there with Alec and Teresa to their shock. And then, Teresa also spots Tada, though Charles then spots and welcomes them, though Edwin then points out Tada's only been staring, which makes him blush and apologize as Teresa also blushes. But they're then called over by an acquaintance, so they leave. But then, Edwin also leaves to meet someone, and Yamashita dog rushes to the buffet, while Pin Senpai notices and chases them, and Hasegawa follows him, leaving Tada alone, so he decides to go take pictures. Meanwhile, someone bumps into Teresa, spilling drink on her dress, so she goes to the bathroom alone to clean it up. But then she spots a building that looks like one from Rainbow Shogun, so after hesitating, she decides to go see it. And meanwhile, Charles asks Alec to dance, as he's chased by others, so she accepts. Meanwhile, Tada's taking photographs, but then he spots Teresa, but it begins to rain, so they take shelter at the building, though they behave awkwardly with each other. Seeing she's cold, he puts his jacket on her, and then he remembers this being like when they first met, which makes him wonder if she's a rainbringer, though they laugh at it. Afterwards, she looks at Tada's pictures. Alec tries to find her, but realizes she's gone, though Charles tells her to calm down and that he'll look for her. Edwin then runs into Alec as she tells him that Teresa's disappeared. Meanwhile, it stopped raining, and Teresa spots the North Star, saying that it's a lucky sign that always shows them the way. Tada's surprised by that, as Teresa explains her favorite nanny told her that, which is why, whenever she's lost, she looks at the stars. Tada says that his grandpa also said that, and that's also why he looks at the stars. But then, Alec, followed by Edwin, finds her completely worried. So Teresa apologizes, though Alec claims that it's her fault for letting her go alone. Charles then shows up, and they thank Tada and leave with Teresa, though Tada's left staring, which Edwin notices. Afterwards, Teresa apologizes to Alec again, but claims that after their study abroad is over, she'll marry Charles and become queen. Though later, she stares at the North Star. Yu reads her favorite detective novel, where in it, the protagonist figures that marigolds mean always keep me with you, but then she hears a noise and figures that Nyanko Big left again. Meanwhile, Charles runs at the park, but suddenly stops. In the morning, Yu wakes Tada up worried because Nyanko Big didn't come back home. Afterwards, Yu's still worried, saying that Nyanko Big disappeared alongside his girlfriend, which is a tattered up foxtail that he's had since he was little. But as Ijuan mentions he's 10 years old, her grandpa says that it's been said that cats suddenly go on a trip when they get older. But as she's pissed and sad, saying Nanako Big would never leave them. But at this, Yamashita Dog comes up with looking for him, so they all join him. After preparing, they see Alec and Teresa, as Tada and Teresa notice each other. Afterwards, the search has begun, though Alec and Teresa didn't join, as they're meeting up with Charles. Though on the way, Alec gives in, and they go help them, making Teresa happy. Ijuan then calls Pin Senpai for help, but he can't, as he's picking clothes with Hasegawa, though she yells it's not a date, just that she's helping because he was questioned by the cops a few days ago over what he was wearing. The group then splits, with Alec going with Teresa, Ijuan with Tada, and Yamashita Dog with Yu. Though Yu, at this, tells herself that love is a no-no for detectives. Afterwards, they're having no luck finding Nyanko Big, so Teresa calls Charles and tells him this. But then, Charles tells her he saw him last night, though almost drowned saving his girlfriend, but he saved them both. Later, they reunite at that point, and points that he followed a path, though not the one home. But then, he decides to ask a cat about it. They think it's a joke, but he then claims that she said that she saw him in a flower shop to their shock. Yamashita Dog recognizes that place, and they head there and find Nyanko Big on top of a sign. So they try to lure him, but he won't budge. So Charles asks what's wrong, but he won't talk. But then Yu notices sunflowers, which mean I only have eyes for you. So she figures Nyanko Big's in love. And then they notice Cherry in the hair salon in front of them. But then Nyanko Big decides to jump to her, but he crashes into the window, though is saved by Yue. Though then the hair salon's owner comes out to see if their cat's fine, but Yamashita Dog recognizes her as Chia, his friend, and he explains the situation. Though Yu's distressed at this, Tada asks Nyanko Big why did he run away with his girlfriend, so Nyanko Big says meow. Afterwards, everyone's at a festival, as Charles asks Tada if he's ever fallen in love, though he claims he hasn't. Edwin then asks Charles if he has a girlfriend, to which he says that there's someone he likes very much, but that it's difficult to get someone one likes to like them back. Meanwhile, Yu's still sad, but is approached by Yamashita Dog. She asks him if she likes Chia, and he says that he does, but that she's only seen him as a little brother. Yu asks if he's awkward with that, to which he responds that he's just happy to see Chia smiling for him. Back home, Yu's about to enter, but Teresa asks if she's okay. So Yu begins crying, saying that she didn't know falling in love could be so painful, and Teresa hugs her, while Yu says that she doesn't want to be happy with just seeing his smile. Time later, Teresa and Alec notice sunflowers on the shop as Yu feels better now, and then Nyanko Big heads out again as Yu tells him that they're in the same boat. Afterwards, Charles finds Nyanko Big on the park again, telling him if you give up, then that's that. But Nyanko Big asks who told him that, so he remembers that time ago Teresa did, as he wanted to give up in finding a precious bracelet to him, but she eventually found it, and that was the moment he fell in love with her. But then he tells Nyanko Big to be careful during a moonlit night, as it appears that the words you've hidden deep within your heart inadvertently spill out during them. Alec asks Teresa if she's changed her mind about marrying Charles, but Teresa won't reply, making her realize she did after falling in love with Tada. We then see a flashback where Teresa's nanny, Rachel, was reading to her and Alec about Rainbow Shogun. Years later, this made her want to go study abroad to Japan. Though Rachel said Japan's different and she'll experience various things to look at the North Star whenever she's lost her way. In the present, Teresa wakes up, asking if the various things Rachel meant included falling in love. Afterwards, she goes to school with Alec, though as the others and Tada arrive, Teresa behaves seriously now, which they all find weird. Later in the classroom, Tada notices a caterpillar on Teresa's hair, which frightens her, and Alec and Ijuan. So Alec wants to kill it, but then Tada simply grabs it and releases it outside as everyone claps, and Teresa says she sincerely appreciates it. After that, she drops her eraser, but Tada picks it up, so she says, "I sincerely appreciate it," kindly, though seriously again. Later, Teresa photographs a rock again, though they all wonder why is she acting weird. After school, it's raining to Teresa and Alec's surprise, but Tada runs into them, so Teresa nervously tries to leave, but he hands on his umbrella, saying he's waiting for Ijuan who has one. So they leave, and Ijuan then arrives, but he didn't bring his umbrella, so they end up running to the shop under the rain. Later, the girls give Shozo the umbrella, but Ijuan and Tada then arrive, soaking wet, making Teresa apologizes, though Tada only blames Ijuan. At night, Tada ends up sneezing. The next day, the photography club will choose the photo they'll enter the contest, and everyone presents their best pictures. Though they ended up taking pictures of anything but actual stars, besides Hasegawa and Pin Senpai. But it's now Tada's turn though, he's dozing off, and as he stands up, he suddenly faints. They take him back home as he has a fever, but seeing the shops busy, Teresa decides to help, blaming herself for this. After that, Ijuan tells them Tada's hungry, so Yu makes him a rice porridge that's incredibly spicy. Later, the elderly couple's about to leave, but having heard that Teresa likes Rainbow Shogun, the lady gives her a couple of extra tickets for the Rainbow Shogun show as the hit man also leaves. Afterwards, Tada's finally fallen asleep, so the guys leave, but they left his bowl upstairs, so Yu asks Teresa to get it. Meanwhile, Alec helps open some stuck jars, but then remembers her conversation with Teresa, where she said that despite falling in love with Tada, she will become queen regardless. In Tada's room, she notices a painting of the Milky Way and remembers Tada showing her it. Though then, a breeze makes Tada's photos fall, so she goes get them, but ends up staring at them. Nyanko Big then rests on Tada, so Teresa carefully moves him away, but Tada, asleep, moves and drops his towel, so she cleans it up and puts it back on. But then she slowly approaches him and kisses him, but she then quickly moves back and begins crying, saying that she can't stop after all, apologizing as Nyanko Big consoles her. Afterwards, she brings the bowl down and goes downstairs, where Alec asks her if she's done, and she responds with yes. The next day, Tada's better now and thanks the girls for their help, but Teresa has a favor to ask him. Teresa goes back to the Gakuradaman gate, seeing the spot she first saw Tada at, though she then sees Nyanko Big with Chiri, but they leave afterwards. And then Tada arrives, but he notices she's without Alec as she says she had things to do today. After that, they depart to the Rainbow Shogun show. They then arrive and see the gigantic Star Tree Tower next to the show, though he fells vertigo by just looking at it, but claims he's fine, so he wants to go up the tower, though he stopped as he forgot they're supposed to go to the show first. Inside, Teresa's amazed at everything in it, and then they play court gun shooting, where Tada wins her a prize she wanted. It's now Teresa's turn, as the hit man appears from behind and tries to win a rainbow fan for Tada, though after missing, she gets the it with her last one, so she wins it, though it was thanks to the hit man, who was then found and escorted outside. After that, they're in an interactive play, so they go with it and run from the villain, as Tada notices Teresa's holding her hand, but they end up cornered. But then Rainbow Shogun saves them, and they all imitate his move, except Tada, who's forced to it. They're then gifted a picture picture, and after that, they go eat rainbow food, which Teresa loves. Tada says that she really loves Rainbow Shogun, so she says that ever since she was a child, Rainbow Shogun would cheer her up, and she admired his strength and kindness, wanting to be like him, encouraged by her Japanese nanny Rachel. Though Tada's surprised at her name being Rachel, so Teresa says that her real name's Reiko. Meanwhile, at the coffee shop, Alec delivers a letter to Shozo by Reiko Ryuzaki. Back with Teresa, she explains Reiko came to study abroad to Larsenburg, but met her husband there and decided to live there. Though Tada's only left amazed at how Reiko rode on an airplane, but also at Teresa saying that she has courage for deciding to study abroad to a place full of strangers. Then, Alec talks to Shozo about Reiko, saying that the only thing she regrets leaving behind was the coffee he brewed. Ejuan then barges in, but sees that Tada's not here, so he decides to ask Alec out, which she accepts to his shock, though then takes it back. But as Ejuan complains, it makes Alec laugh, making Ejuan happy and compliments her smile. Alec thanks him for this, though Ejuan's still scared. While that happens, Tada decides to go up the star tree, but up there, it's cloudy again, which Tada attributes to her being the rainbringer, though she claims she's blessed by the rain god instead. Though then, Tada notices a family taking photos and recalls that the weather was like this as well, the last time he saw his parents. He remembers how his dad promised him to go take pictures of trains, but couldn't, due to the work reschedule. But Tada couldn't forgive him back then and couldn't send him off properly. He thinks that if he had told him his honest feelings, he could have made them leave later and prevented them from getting into the accident. But then, as he looks at Teresa, he wonders why is he saying what he never said to anyone before now. But Teresa tells him he's definitely not at fault for his parents' accident, but that if he's regretting not being able to honestly share his feelings, to try to share them from now on and try not to repeat the same mistake like he said back then. Though then Tada gets frightened by the transparent floor. Later, they head back, and there, Tada hands Teresa katana keychains and their picture of Rainbow Shogun. So she says she sincerely appreciates it, though appears to be shaking, but she then appears fine and leaves. Though then, Tada stops her and musters up the courage to ask her for a coffee, but Teresa rejects this, so he says he'll see her later and heads in. While Teresa says that she's so grateful to have met Tada. Ejuan then leaves the shop, but sees Teresa not going into the apartment. Later, Tada looks at his photographs, but notices one where Teresa's eyes reflect like a rainbow. The next day, Tada heads to school, though stops to see Teresa's building's door for a bit. Afterwards, Ejuan runs into him, saying that Tada's picture was the chosen one, but he won't show him it yet until he gets permission, leaving it in an envelope in the clubroom. At class, they notice Alec and Teresa haven't arrived yet, but then their teacher tells them that Teresa and Alec have returned to Larsenburg for family reasons, leaving everyone shocked, especially Tada. The group goes see if Teresa and Alec truly left, not knowing what those family reasons are, so they spy on her apartment but see that it's empty. At night, while looking at the rainbow fan, Tada wonders why did she disappear without saying anything. Time later, it's been 1 month since they left, though Tada's still affected by it, looking sad at Teresa's rainbow cup. But then, Yu notices she's missing a volume of her novel, but Ejuan remembers she saw Alec reading it. Though at this, they all wonder what happened to her and Teresa, as Pin Senpai asks Tada again that Teresa seemed different at the end. So he remembers the Rainbow Shogun show, but says that she was weird as usual. But then he gets Pin Senpai's order wrong, though he eats it anyways, and Tada says, "I sincerely, thank you." Afterwards, they leave, though Ejuan decides to spend the night with Tada. In his room, they notice Nyanko Big's in his closet, who's holding the rainbow fan, as he saved the Rainbow Shogun stuff in a box. Though then, Nyanko Big tries to attack Ejuan again and dodges again, but he gets worried as Tada didn't take a picture now, though that he also hasn't taken many pictures lately. Ejuan then asks if he entered his picture to the contest, though he just left it in the clubroom. The next day, they notice someone's moving into Teresa's apartment already, and later at school, Tada stares at Teresa's old desk while Ejuan sees this. Afterwards, in the clubroom, Tada can't find the envelope, so he shrugs it off. Afterwards, at noon, Tada heads back with Ejuan, but they end up by the place with the mannequin that looks like Teresa. But as Ejuan wonders how Alec's doing, Tada claims not to care, saying that there's no use in talking about people they'll never see again. At this, Ejuan's worried about Tada, but won't ask him anything yet, saying to himself that Tada needs time. Time later, it's now Christmas, but it's been 3 months now since Teresa and Alec left. The elderly couple enters the shop, though after a long while, explain that the husband was sick, hospitalized. After this, he tells his wife that he's glad they've been together all this time, asking to keep going on this journey together, which Tada hears. But then, the lady asks Tada how's Teresa doing, saying that she gave her Rainbow Shogun tickets. Tada tells her she went to it. Later at night, Tada stares at the sky in his room, but then notices Nyanko Big grabbing a katana keychain, which makes him remember the last time he saw Teresa. The next day, Tada decided to go to the Star Tree Tower. At the top, he was marveled by the skyline, but then he saw a blonde and a redhead girl, but it wasn't them. And back home, he decided to throw the rainbow shogun box away. The next day, the photography club cleaned up the room, though Tada then cleared up a board with Teresa and Alec's names, which made them sad. But then, Tada finds an extra memory card, so they play it and find that it's Teresa's, which has a bunch of photographs of rocks, but also a video of the photograph event day, which Teresa accidentally filmed. As they all become surprised, they see the video and become sad and happy, and by the end, Tada suddenly decides to rush home while remembering all the times he spent with Teresa. But arriving there, at his room, he notices the box is gone. At night, he lays on his bed, and Ijuan then arrives, telling Tada that he figured he liked Teresa, since otherwise he wouldn't have been able to take a photo like this, showing him that his picture of Teresa at the lake won the award, as Pin Senpai found and submitted it time ago. Tada, though, realizes he's stupid, being angry since she left because of her leaving without saying anything, saying that he's always like that the people he cares about disappear all of a sudden, and that he can't get an answer anymore, so he shut everything out of his heart, and then asks why did he think Teresa would always be with him, calling himself stupid, but that he wants to see Teresa at least one more time because there's something he wants to tell her. But Shozo's been listening and tells Tada that he should go see her, and that if it stopped raining in his heart, then all that's left is for him to go look for the rainbow, as he hands in the box he threw away. Seeing her picture again and remembering her telling him to share his feelings, he decided to bravely board a plane. While Ijuan stalked him, Tada finally arrives at Larsenburg. Meanwhile, at Larsenburg's palace, Alec plans today's schedule for Teresa. Afterwards, at the airport, Ijuan becomes desperate as Tada's only been sitting for 3 hours due to flying shock, so he ends up yelling Tada to just move, but Tada recognizes Ijuan's voice, though claims that he wouldn't be here. Though this helped, as he now looked through the bag his grandpa gave him for his acquaintance, finding a card for Reiko, as he remembers that's the name of Teresa's nanny. Though then, Ijuan gets distracted by the hot chocolate spoons, but seeing Tada's leaving, he rushes out, but ends up losing him as he forgot his wallet inside. Later, Tada headed to Reiko's address, though found out it's a palace. Meanwhile, in Japan, his friends talk about Tada going to Larsenburg and are met with a gigantic turkey, which Ijuan left them, though they also wonder where is Ijuan, wondering if he followed Tada. In Larsenburg, Ijuan tries to find Tada, but explores as well, though, seeing a stand, he notices a picture featuring Teresa, finding out she's Larsenburg's princess to his shock. Meanwhile, Tada tried to talk to a guard, though it was useless, and Teresa and Alec happened to go past him. In the castle, Teresa looks at Tada's keychain and their picture, which she saved in her drawer. Rachel then comes in and gives her sweets. Meanwhile, Alec tends to Teresa's dress and is approached by Charles, who tries his new suit on. He hands Alec his bracelet as she says he's always taken good care of it, as Charles says it's something his mom handed down to him and a memento of Teresa, which she remembers. Though he then gets a call and switches back, but then Alec hugs his jacket, but Teresa then comes in and sees this, making her drop her sweets. Meanwhile, Reiko spots Tada outside and becomes surprised at seeing him in Larsenburg, so she lets him in and she reads Shozo's letter. Though after seeing Tada still has no idea, she tells him he looks like Shozo, showing him the same picture that's at the shop, explaining that a long time ago she worked part-time there as a college student. But then Charles comes and finds Tada, both happy at seeing each other. Meanwhile, Alec tries to deny her feelings for Charles to Teresa, but she holds her arm, as Teresa says that that's the sign of when she's lying, though Alec still denies it, but ultimately, that if anything would come of her admitting her feelings. But then, Charles and Rachel find them, and they reintroduce Tada, though Teresa looks distraught, asking why is he here, as Tada says it's because she suddenly disappeared. Though they notice the sweet on the floor, so Tada picks it up, but Teresa still looks distressed, so Alec takes the plate away and apologizes for not contacting him sooner, thanking him for his help in Japan, but that Miss Teresa has dinner's plans after this, though he's confused by that. But Charles says they'd listen to Tada, since he came all the way from Japan to here, and then to tell Tada what's going on, as he's done so much for her. So they later have a coffee where they apologize, but that he's glad she's off. She asks how's everyone doing, so he shows him a picture, but then she notices Rainbow Shogun keychain, which makes her happy. But suddenly, she turns serious and apologizes for leaving without notice, and that, the truth is, her real name is Teresa de Larsenburg, princess, and the only daughter of the king of Larsenburg, having to succeed his father one day. At this, Tada realizes everything she mysteriously said back then was about this. And then, Teresa explains her family has a rite of passage where they leave the country to expand their horizons, so she chose Japan, being grateful for that experience with her friends. And she hoped that'd continue, but that she was about to forget her duty, so she ran back home, as there's no way she can live the way she truly wants. though that she's not pushing herself for this as she loves her family and country. But then, she reveals that once she turns 18, she'll get married with Charles and become queen, to Tada's shock as she explains that this was all decided since she was born. Afterwards, Tada's leaving but won't look back, so Rachel puts a card on his backpack, while Teresa ends up crying in her bedroom, and Charles and Alec hear her. Later, Ijun finally finds Tada, though he's crying, to his utter shock. Tada asks why is Ijun here, though he says he couldn't wait and do nothing. But then, after finding out Tada saw Teresa, Tada tells him that she'll marry Charles, leaving Ijun shocked. Meanwhile, Teresa's left sad in her room. She apologizes to Rachel for the troubles and dropping her sweets, but Rachel says that to err is human, which she's surprised at hearing, and that even if they can't see the stars tonight, they are still there, and to look up as she's lost her way, and to talk to Alec, who's worried for her. Meanwhile, Ijun asks if he told Teresa what he wanted to say, though Tada says that it's not important, but as he tries to leave, Ijun angrily stops him, but this makes a card fall onto the floor. At the palace, Teresa tells Alec she figured she'd never see Tada again, but that, deep inside, she was happy to see him. At this, Alec says that love works in mysterious ways, which Charles. Meanwhile, Ijun finds out the card's an invitation to the party at the castle tomorrow. Ijun wants him to attend, but Tada won't, not wanting to tell Teresa now, saying he'll just be a bother now. But Ijun reproaches him for this, saying that he was happy he was sharing his feelings for once, and even rode a plane and saw him cry for the first time, not having done so at his parents' funeral, saying that he's changed after falling in love. So he tells him to stop suppressing his feelings. But as Tada won't answer, he threatens to drop the invitation into the river, as he won't need it. But then, a breeze hits, making Ijun drop it, but Tada chases after it. Remembering not wanting to do the same mistakes and Teresa, he rushes after it before it falls into the sewers, and decides that, to settle his feelings once and for all, they'll go as he jumps, and was able to save the invitation. So the next day, he went to the party as Ijun cheered for him. Meanwhile, Teresa's ready and Charles escorts her, but there, Charles reveals that he's aware of Teresa's true feelings, but that he can't condemn her for falling in love with someone. But then, he asks if she's happy with him, but as she's about to answer, Tada approaches Teresa, revealing to Alec he got an invitation from Rachel. He wants to talk with her for one last time, saying he doesn't want to regret anymore. Charles at this tells Teresa that she's obligated to be happy. So they go to a hall where Tada tells her that he never thought of being happy or falling in love, but that it changed when he met her because, for some reason, he said what honestly was in his heart to her, being able to talk to her and smile, realizing he had fallen in love, but that thinking about it, he's been inexplicably attracted to her since they first met, having been in love with her before he knew it, and that he likes her, though Teresa cries at this. Meanwhile, Alec tries to barge in, but is stopped by Charles, who drags her away, though he notices that it's a moonlit night. Teresa tells Tada that the true reason he ran back home was because of him, having tried to seal her feelings deep within her heart, but that, despite him dreading flights, he came to her and easily unsealed them, and understands that she fell in love with him ever since she met him. Teresa then tells him that she really liked him, and that she'll never forget this love. As Tada says that, he won't as well. Time later in Japan, Pin-senpai graduated, and his friends threw him a party, though he only could think on nudes anyways. Naenko Big meanwhile attacked Ijun, as Tada took photographs of this again, and Pin-senpai left Tada in charge of the club. Meanwhile, in Larsenburg, Rachel reads the detective novel Yu loves, saying that a happy ending would be for a nice conclusion. But then, we see in a newspaper that Charles broke off his engagement with Teresa while he hangs with Alec. Meanwhile, Tada takes photographs at the Sakura-man gate, though it begins raining, but he's covered by an umbrella as he says, "I sincerely appreciate it." But it's Teresa, as she reveals she came running after him, and that she'll never be apart from him again, as they hug each other and then share a kiss under a rainbow.